Hi there, and welcome to another edition of Premier Investments and Wealth Management Financial Program. My name is Doug Wagner, and before I make my way around the table and introduce you to the gentleman working with Premier Investments and Wealth Management, I need you to ask yourself a question. Do I have a financial plan? If you're being honest, and you're like most Americans, odds are you don't. And if you do, maybe it's just something that you have here, but it's not even sketched out on the back of a napkin or something like that. My friends at Premier Investments and Wealth Management, they want to help you with that. And it is so easy, you will not believe it. Just go to premieriwm.com, click Get Started, answer a few questions. They'll provide for you a one-page Premier Vision document, also a free no-obligation meeting. They'll come to you, you come to them, they'll do it electronically, whatever. They want to present you with that document and help you get the roadmap for your financial success in the future. Investing doesn't have to be difficult. In fact, I work with them. They make it very easy. They can make it easy for you as well. premieriwm.com, click Get Started. You can even ask for an appointment on the page, or you can call today, 800-383-6590. Premier Investments and Wealth Management, named to Forbes 2026 Best in State Wealth Management Team. To my right, he's a wealth advisor, an accredited investment fiduciary, a certified financial planner professional. He's got over 11 years of experience in the investment industry, and he's my neighbor, Dr. Casey Mushrush.
Just to you, Doug.
How you doing today?
Doing really good. How about yourself?
Wonderful. Like the seafoam green there. It's
Yeah, we were talking about that ahead of time.
I'm digging that. Also a fashion plate with over 31 years of experience in the investment industry. He's a wealth advisor, and he's a friend of mine. Jonas Everett. Hi, Jonas.
Hi, Doug. Good to see you, sir.
Good to see you as well. Baseball season treating you okay so far?
Baseball season, yep.
All right.
Fun to watch. NBA, playoffs.
Yeah,
fun.
all sorts of playoffs going on. It's that time of year, the convergence, right? Converging. Roger Abel is the president and wealth advisor. He's accredited investment fiduciary, certified exit planning advisor with over 22 years of experience in the investment industry. He was named to Forbes 2026 Best in State Wealth Advisors. He was also named the 2026 Big Kahuna. Roger, hi there.
Howdy, Doug.
How are you?
That's a new one. I'm good. How are you?
That's a new
I don't
one,
think that's
too.
just a 2026 thing, though. I think that's been ongoing for at least 3 years at this point, right?
I hadn't seen that.
No,
as
the
a
Big
team-
Kahuna. Big Kahuna.
Oh,
the Big Kahuna
Kahuna?
title.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even know how that started. I don't know. Sure.
Oh,
I'm the
don't worry
Kahuna.
about the actual designation.
No, the Forbes
one
2026 Best
Big
in
Kahuna is all
State
that
Wealth
really
Advisors.
matters.
Yeah,
Is the Big Kahuna. We're here. Let's go.
Exactly.
We can kick the show off now, Doug.
Exactly. Let us do this. Roger, this first question's for you since you're number one. Chris wants to know, is maxing out a Roth IRA enough? I'm 46. I recently left corporate life to start my own company. I have about $900,000 in my old 401k. Since I no longer have access to a workforce retirement plan, is maxing out a Roth IRA every year enough, or should I be doing something different?
That's a great question, Chris, and congratulations on doing a pretty good job accumulating in your traditional 401k. The bottom line really is, though, maxing out a Roth IRA likely won't be enough, especially given, the income you probably had to accumulate $900,000 by the time you were 46. So when we look at this, we look at a Roth IRA as a good tool, but it has a relatively low contribution limit. And this is really a challenge for many business owners. And they believe that I've left this corporate structure of a 401k and it's gone. Well, it's not really true. What's actually happened is you can go implement your own 401k and gain a lot of flexibility by how you design it and what you can do. And there's a couple key retirement plans that individuals can set up if you're a self-employed business owner. The first is probably one of the most popular is setting up a solo 401k. Sounds fancy. All that means it's your own 401k. You can do a salary deferral, just like a workplace 401k. You get a match, just like the workplace 401k. Granted, you provide it to yourself. But a key element of that is you could also set up a profit sharing plan to help increase contribution. So that's one of the most popular ways people are setting up self-employed retirement plans. Another thing you can think about, Chris, is that when you start a business, you likely aren't going to have a whole lot of income in year one. And I think that lends itself to why you're asking about just maxing a Roth IRA. Something maybe you should be considering that isn't workplace retirement plan specific is maybe utilize some Roth conversion strategies when your income's low. You've got $900,000 that's all taxable in this 401k. Well, if you don't have a whole lot of income the first year, you might think about converting this at a lower tax bracket, especially at age 46, and getting this moved into a place that it can sit, percolate, and grow tax-free for the next 15 or 20 years. I think those are some opportunities that you could look at and kind of turn starting a business and losing a 401k you're looking at that as a negative, turn that into a positive by how do we, take the money we've accumulated, get it tax-free, set up our own 401k, and really it's going to put you on the right track. The second part of this, what's really important, Chris, is not whether you should max out a Roth IRA. It's really determining what your savings rate needs to be.
Okay.
And you could run a scenario where maybe you scaled back your savings for 2 or 3 years while you establish this business and then say, all right, if I miss years 1, 2, and 3 from a contribution standpoint, what do I need to do the next 15 years to make up for that? And likely missing 1 year of contributions isn't going to be the difference between financial success or not. It's the habit of going and doing it for 10 years, not making contributions. And business owners struggle with this. It's probably the one place business owners overlook. And it's that they see their business as their asset and they forget to save. The most successful retired business owners I work with pretend as if the business is worth zero and they're saving for their own retirement. And part of the reason we talk about that, only 25% of business owners actually exit. Everybody assumes you can sell a business. That's not the reality. 25% actually exit. So it's really important that you make sure you're saving for your retirement, regardless of what the value of this business is.
Question for you, nuts and bolts. If you're Rothifying your 401k at that point, does that mean you're necessarily pulling money out, paying taxes, but no penalties, and then that's what goes into that Roth IRA or Roth IRA 401k, however that is?
You're doing a conversion.
A conversion, okay.
So
you are paying taxes on it.
You will pay tax,
Okay.
but the whole idea is let's just assume Chris is married.
Yeah.
Okay. And let's assume wife stays home. They've saved up some money. They run this business year one. There might not be any income year one.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you look at converting up to the 12% tax bracket, or at least say $100,000. Well, yeah, you might have to pay $10,000 in tax, but that's significantly lower than the tax bracket Chris likely was in before.
Right.
And the opportunity is because you're 46. If you were 59, maybe that's not the opportunity. But at 46, it might be a great opportunity to start thinking about how do we Rothify, as you would call it, our retirement. And actually, Chris, what I'd encourage you to do is go to our website, premieriwm.com, download the Rothification guide that we have out there, because that'll kind of walk you through the steps of how do we start converting this $900,000 into this tax-free arena versus one that's entirely taxable.
There we go. That makes complete sense. The premieriwm.com is the website. Again, that Rothification guide. There's plenty of other stuff that you can download there as well. Chris and anybody else who's listening or watching here, because it's important that you have education and inspiration. That's what they do at Premier Investments and Wealth Management. They will not only educate you, but they'll inspire you to be better at doing what you need to do, as far as making it muscle memory to actually get that money put away for your critical retirement and future. Premier Investments and Wealth Management at 800-383-6590. Call to make your appointment today. Joanne wants to know, my husband and I seem to have different views on spending. When he buys something, he feels like it's justified, and when I do, he questions it.
Their house too.
How can couples get on the same page about money so it doesn't turn into constant arguments? You know what? This is tailor-made for you because
This is very common.
I know the story that you're going to tell here.
You already know, Doug.
I do, and I love it.
Great question, Joanne. It's really not necessarily about the individual purchase. You have different values and expectations that your husband does. if you guys can, really have to develop a shared framework. It reminds me of just somehow trying to get you guys on the same side of the table about your purchases. And one of the big things, Doug, that we try to do is take emotions out of the purchases, take emotions out of the arguments. There's a few things that you can do, Joanne. You can develop a shared spending plan. We like a no judgment spending bucket. So we like people to have actually a streamlined budget where they can actually define a bucket. And one of the things that, one of the terms that you're waiting for, Doug, is I wrote a book based on what my neighbor told me. Basically, I was taking out the garbage one afternoon, and he said, "Hey, I heard you writing a book. Make sure you tell your customers and your listeners that women like to spend their money on their hair, and guys like to spend their money on hunting and golf." So, and that's perfectly understandable because we're different people. Define what requires a conversation for both of you. And you need to develop a strategy, Joanne, that takes the emotions out of it, and you need to really rely on the plan and understand that your husband shouldn't be mad at you for making your purchases, and you shouldn't be mad at your husband for making his purchases. You have to have some money set aside to go ahead and spend some money on the things that you like for your lifestyle. And I wrote a book called The No Budget Life. And I think that everybody spends money on different things, and I think that's okay. And it's not an easy framework to do, but if you sit down on the same side of the table as your husband, and just remember, and just try to have your husband remember that if you ask 10 people in a row what their favorite food is, maybe 6 will say pizza. But not everybody's going to say chicken wings that I love to eat every meal. So it's perfectly okay to have differing opinions on what you spend your money on, but you have to sit down and be on the same side of the table, and you have to have some plans.
Yeah, I think something that you kind of talked a little bit in there, Jonas, it seems like that just having that framework and having those conversations and that communication ahead of time goes an awful long way of helping to solve a lot of these differences and a lot of these issues. And I really like your idea that you were talking about there with that no judgment spending bucket. And whatever that dollar amount is, whether it's $50 or whether it's $100 or whether it's $150, I don't think the dollar amount in itself really matters. That's going to be very specified for every particular couple. But if you're underneath that limit, then why are we having a conversation about it? It completely, totally eliminates any of that friction that can be generated during those conversations.
Absolutely.
Do you want to know what works really well? Whatever you want, honey.
Domestic bliss.
Whatever you want, honey. Sure.
By the
Sounds
way,
good.
you forgot fishing in that list, by the way.
But great question, Joanne. Very, very common. I'm always trying to help my brother and sister-in-law with this. My sister-in-law, Darla, likes to order shoes, and my brother looks like a teapot about ready to just burst and boil every time he talks about it. But I sat down with him, and like Casey said, we need to develop just a no judgment spending bucket for people.
Well, everybody values things differently, and whatever you're buying, you see value in. If my wife wants furniture, I'm like, well, that's a waste. That's worth $0 in the future. But that's what she values. She
Right.
wants nice furniture.
Yeah.
What do I want? I want nice fishing equipment. She looks at that and says, what a waste. That's worth $0. You're going to lose it at the bottom of the lake. You're giving it away. So it's just, I've been married for 24 years. When I'm 25.
Hold on a second. You
Took a little while.
You almost mumbled that like you weren't quite sure.
It's going to be 24 this year. No, I knew. I was going to stretch and say 25, but that would
Right.
be stretch. It'd be 26 this year. Figured out about 20 years into this, whatever you like, honey, works really well.
That does. I should have taken that from marriage number 1. Premier Investments in Wealth Management. You know what? There's something people like about this show is that it's not just this tedious explanation of the minutia. This is about your life. So there's fun, there's laughter, there's pain, there's a little bit of suffering sometimes too. People come here because Premier Investments in Wealth Management, real people dealing with their real emotions, and they'll help you do that and help you get a way to fix and to find that place for you, good soft place to land, not only for your money, but also for a lot of times your relationships too. Get in touch with them to schedule your meeting at premieriwm.com, or you can call 800-383-6590. Premier Investments in Wealth Management, named to Forbes 2026 Best in State Wealth Management Team. Dr. Mushrush.
Just you.
Question for you from Christina. How late is too late to start planning for early retirement? I'm a 42-year-old teacher, and I do not want to work until I'm 65. My husband and I have about $240,000 saved. We make about $232,000 a year combined. Is it too late for me to start planning for an early retirement, or what steps should I be taking to get on track?
Christina, this is a great question, and no, it is not too late. At 42, you still have time. You guys sound like you have a lot of really good income that's coming in. You have the ability that you can put things into place, but now is the time to start. It's not too late, but the sooner that you begin that process, the better off you're going to be. Now, a couple of things that you talked about there. You've already put yourself into a very good position where you are heading into the right direction. Now, you mentioned a pretty decent income. You guys have some money that's already saved up. One thing you didn't mention over on there, and I'm actually going to piggyback a little bit of our conversation that we had just previously. What's your husband think about this? Now, you have mentioned that I don't want to work until I'm age 65, but how about your husband? Like, how's that conversation actually gone? Now, you mentioned that you're a teacher. You didn't necessarily say what he did. I would probably presume, and again, I don't know this for sure, but he's probably making a little bit more than you, just given the numbers that you're talking about and the particular career. Is this a situation where he intends on continuing to work while you are not? Or is this a situation where you're both going to be retiring together? Digging down over into the details like that will really help you start to work backwards and build out some form of a plan or some form of a savings mechanism to understand exactly the steps that you need to take in order to ensure that you do not have to work until you are age 65 and that you're able to have that early retirement and really enjoy yourself in the way that you want to. Now, there's really three key areas to focus on through this conversation as well. Savings rate, how much you're actually going to be putting away at this point. The timeline clarity, which I kind of mentioned right there, how long you have to do this and what you're executing it into. And then what's your bridge strategy? So you mentioned not retiring at age 65, but if you're looking at age 55, you're going to want to structure those investments so that you have access to them or liquidity prior to like an age 59.5 distribution through like a traditional IRA or a typical early distribution strategy such as that. So making sure that you have them set up in ways that you actually have liquidity and access to the funds when they are available. Probably one of the largest mistakes that we see people, they just assume that retirement is a number and nothing else. When I hit $1 million, $2 million, $10 million, whatever that number is, then I'm done. But that's only part of the story. So understanding how you're going to access those dollars and convert that into income for yourself really is the much larger part. So no, it's not too late. Make sure you do get your plan in place and get started right away. Now, we do have a way for you to create a first version of your strategy. You can go and get a Premier Vision document. I know Doug has talked about that before. We've talked about that before on the show here as well. But you can go to premieriwm.com, click that Get Started button, get your Premier Vision document to start building out this plan and putting the steps in place to make sure that you are able to achieve that retirement goal.
And it's a fabulous idea to do that. And you can also just pick up the phone and call 800-383-6590. That's Premier Investments in Wealth Management. Make your appointment today. Question for all of you. Brian asks, I'm 44, but I make more money than my parents ever did. I crossed my dad's peak salary by the time I was 32, but I feel massively behind. My parents raised 3 kids, owned a house, took us a nice vacation every year. My mom only worked part-time on and off throughout our childhood, but they always seemed calm and never seemed like money was a stressor. I have only one kid. My wife works full-time, and I find myself in a state of panic when I check the bank account on a random Tuesday, and I wonder where the money has gone. I make good money. I know I make good money. I just thought it would feel different than this by now. Why doesn't it feel like enough, and what can I do to fix that? Jonas, it's not just finances you deal with. You're dealing with emotions, and you're dealing with things like this when people really feel like they're pinned up against the wall sometimes.
Yes, Brian has some statements here. I feel massively behind. He's in a state of panic. One of the things, Brian, that you can do is just do a net worth statement at this point and do an inventory on what you have. And I don't think you're giving yourself enough credit. If you're making more money than your parents ever did, the income source is there. I would throw a upside down question at Brian right now if I were talking to him. I said, Brian, what would happen if you lost your job today? Okay. How would you feel? And he'd feel a lot worse than he feels right now, wouldn't he? Yeah. That would be a nice framework to start. I could take him from feeling very lousy to building him back up again.
So
but he's not giving himself enough credit. One piece of advice that I would give Brian is if he has an enormous amount in a spare tire or an emergency fund, he wouldn't feel like this. And my best friend that I have, he's always had $100,000 in savings. And he's never, ever been unconfident or not lacking confidence about money. He's always been very confident about money, just having a huge spare tire. And that might be one thing to consider that Brian can do just to get rid of all of these negative emotions that he has. And it's really emotions of uneasiness about his finances. But the income is there. I would have him start with a big spare tire first.
Roger, I'm going to go to you next here real quick. I understand what he's talking about. My parents, I don't think they made any more than $25,000, $30,000 a year. They bought their house. They had 5 kids. 3 even went through college, university. We never were hurting for a car. And it seems like we are almost at a point where even if you're double income, you're having a hard time keeping up.
We're a consumer society today versus 40 years ago. We talked about this on a podcast earlier today. In 1980, if you wanted to buy something, you had to go to a store, which had a date or a time that it closed every day, or you had to pick up a catalog, look up the number, call the lady or guy on the phone and order it. That's the only way you can buy anything.
Yeah.
Today, Amazon will be at my house tonight. And we've become such a society, consumer society, that lifestyle creep plays a massive role here. Like, I have to have that. And think about social media marketing. It's so targeted. I turn on my social media, it's all the stuff I want to buy. Like everything. So is it easy to say, oh, that's only $22. It'll be here tonight. Well, I need bulk toilet paper, will be here tomorrow. So those are just the different things you have to think about. How do I avoid lifestyle creep? On that podcast, we also talked about housing prices, because today everybody's saying that it's the most affordable time for buying a house. Unaffordable. It's not true. A house today that's $400,000, the equivalent cost to buy that, indexed for inflation, is $600,000 in 1980. So it's not that it's unaffordable. It's that people are spending their money a lot of different ways that really don't help them get to this end goal of financial security. Think about a house today. Would somebody build a house without a granite countertop?
Oh, no.
No. Is that needed? No, it's a want. Adds to the cost. Our choices of food. My girls, every weekend, they do the Canes dance to get Raising Canes. I kid you not. Our little friend, they do a Canes dance. And when I say I'm not going to Canes, they go, Dad, just do DoorDash, because they have no idea that it's another $20. So that's an easy solution. But those are the things that probably is happening to Brian, the convenience of life, the lifestyle creep, all the other pressures and things around. You have to figure out, how do I eliminate those to feel good about my situation?
Some really interesting stuff, Casey.
Yeah, well, it's and just to kind of pile on what you were talking about, one of the things I'd just like to mention to you, Brian, I mean, you are not living in the same era that your parents did as far as growing up. Now, I pulled some data just on a couple of things that have happened in the last couple of years. iPhones were invented in 2007. How many people can imagine not having like some form of a smartphone device? Now, obviously, we had like some Palm Pilots and some stuff before that, but until the iPhone came out in the consumer market, it wasn't nearly as pervasive.
Hey, Casey, when you pulled that, did you any chance you pulled the cost of the average plan?
The cell phone plan? I did not. Yeah. I did not. I can tell you, because I did pull this number, which was when there were more mobile phones in the United States compared to so wireless only households compared to actually having landlines. That crossed over somewhere between about 2015, 2017. That wasn't that long ago, though.
No.
But can you imagine if you went to somebody today and said, I'm going to take away your cell phone?
They couldn't operate.
They couldn't operate. Like it wouldn't exist. Microsoft moving over to a subscription model started in 2011 on the enterprise side, and then 2013 is when they started up their subscription model on the retail side. That wasn't that long ago. Prior to that, you could actually go buy an operating system, download it, have it on your computer, and then ignore all the security updates that continue to come out.
Well, that right there has to be one of the killers of wealth.
Yeah.
I hear people talk about car payments and all this. Well, the car still has some residual value. It's less than you paid. That has zero residual value. You have to replace it every 2 years.
Four phones, $1,000 a piece, right there.
Yep.
Plus your
Right.
plan, which you're
Plus
talking
the
about.
plan
I
cost.
know how much this is because we have 4 phones, 4 watches, 3 iPads. It's hundreds.
Yeah.
It's like $400 some a month for the service.
Yeah.
I mean, that didn't exist. That didn't exist 20 years ago, 30 years ago. It's amazing.
Right. But it goes back to that entire lifestyle creep thing of how this has become this necessity in terms of trying to function over in today's society, or at least that seems to be what the perception is.
And I like how you said, Roger, it just reminded me of what Sam Walton did with Walmart. He created a heightened sense of consumerism by having everything on sale. Well, with the iPhone, you just said that it's created a delirious sense of consumerism because we're buying stuff all the time now.
All day.
And we only had a couple of choices to buy things back when our parents were growing up. Now it's delirious. Now we're buying things all the time.
And what it's doing is imprinting into your mind what you need. Here's an example. I have some weeds I need to pull in the yard, and I can't just pull them and get the roots. So I'm like, hey, I wonder what the best way to get these out are. So I went to ChatGPT, put it in there, and it links me up. Oh, this little yard puller. So guess what I did this morning? I went right to Amazon, $21.99. It'll be at my house today.
Yeah.
I tacked on a couple other items with it because if I get over $25,
Now you have free shipping.
it'll show up
Yep.
today.
Okay.
Otherwise,
Free
it's 2
same-day
days because
shipping.
I can't wait 2 days to go do this.
And
I
then-
probably won't get to it for another month.
And then you have Grandpa's Weeder that gets all the 5-star reviews, and that's $49.99. So you have to have the good one too that won't break.
Yeah.
All you have to do, the other day I was sitting outside my house and FedEx driver was there. He parked his car in front of my driveway and went to 5 different homes. And those are all deliveries from Amazon. I went to this one, this one, this one. He just parked right there and for about 10 minutes, walked the packages. I'm like, this is wild. Nobody ever used to buy this much stuff, ever. Ever.
I know my FedEx and UPS drivers so well. I'm going to start playing golf with them.
They just stop by for coffee. What's for lunch? It is bad. It is that bad. And the other thing, too, is that one of the things is that if you don't have any sort of a defined plan for your money, then you're going to leak money in a lot of places because you don't know where it's going.
Here, what I think Brian really needs to do, because he used some language in here that basically he has no idea where he stands. You probably need to sit down, put together a financial plan and figure out a couple of key things. Where do I really stand financially? 1. 2, if I'm not on track, what do I need to do to get on track? And then 3, prioritize the savings rate and try to let all the other stuff fall in line. If you know what your savings rate is and you can know whether you can achieve it, you will feel significantly different about your situation. Yeah. Brian might be in great shape, but nobody's ever sat down with them and said, this is where you stand. And I will tell you, Brian, at 44, that's the age everybody really starts to think about this. I had a friend of mine come in. When they came in, they're like, man, I think we're way behind. I said, well, I'll tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear.
Yeah.
Went down, went through everything. I'm like, you're not really that far behind. You need to up your savings rate by X and you'll be right where you need to be. Well, they walked out relieved, even though they thought they were not in a great spot.
Yeah.
So, Brian, sit down with somebody. You can go to our website, Premier IWM, click Get Started. One of us sitting at this table will get you a strategy put together, Premier Vision document, at least let you know where you stand so you can figure out what you need to do going forward.
I'm going to wrap this with a little story. 7, 8, 10 years ago, I was 100 pounds heavier than I am right now. I felt horrible. I mean, literally every day something else would happen and my body just didn't feel right. I didn't want to go to the doctor because I was concerned that I would find out the worst thing. Brian, you've got an advantage is you want to know what the issue is and how to fix it. I went for months avoiding it because I was scared of what I would find on the other end. When I finally did go, I didn't get the answer that I had hoped for, that it's all in your mind, but at least I was able to find out what the issue was and how to fix it. And that's what they help you do at Premier Investments in Wealth Management. If you're sick, you go to a doctor. If you've got financial issues, if you're looking to try to get your investment future set so that your kids can go to college, you can retire. Premier Investments in Wealth Management. That's the whole wealth management part of it. PremierIWM.com. Call today. Make your appointment, 800-383-6590. Walk right into it. They'll walk into the storm with you, okay? They'll help you clarify what you need for a good financial future so that you can make it. Premier Investments in Wealth Management named to Forbes 2026 Best in State Wealth Management Teams. Roger, Jane wants to know, 59 years old, starting to think seriously about Social Security. The more information I get, the more confusing it feels. How do you actually make decision in this area with confidence and know you're not leaving money on the table?
Jane, great question. I understand why you feel confused. There's 300 plus different ways to claim this. I think the first thing I would think about is there's not going to be a perfect strategy. Okay. And here's why. The only way to really figure out how to get the most money out of this is to know the day that you're going to die. And then if you have a spouse, you have to know the day they die too. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, the focus should switch from break evens and how to get the most money out to how does this coordinate best with my overall financial plan. And you have to start to really look at about 4 key areas to do that. The first is, what are our income needs? Can I defer Social Security and let this keep increasing? Or do I need the money? You know, if you're 62, you might need that money to actually retire. You need to know that. That's the first thing. Second thing to take into account, what's your life expectancy in your family? If no one in your family made it past 75 and you're a single individual, that might lend itself to taking this earlier. Also, what's your current health? Do you have diabetes or have you had a stroke or do you have any health situations that would make you believe you might not make it to, you know, the average age of, let's say, 85? Yeah. And a good way to think about this, I've talked about this with clients before. If you were applying for life insurance today, would you get a standard rate, a preferred rate, or declined? If you tell me you're getting declined because of your health, you likely have less than regular life expectancy to live. So you might lean into taking it early. And then if you're married, there's coordinations with your spouse. And I think the one thing that people massively overlook with Social Security, or maybe aren't even aware of, is that when one spouse passes away, you're going to lose a check. So it might make sense in some situations to have one person delay a check till they're 70 just to protect the family unit. That's not about getting the maximum out. That's about providing a great outcome for your family, regardless of what happens.
Risk management.
That's all that it's about. Yeah. And I truly believe Social Security, it's good verbiage, should be about risk management in your financial plan. It is the bedrock of income for people retiring today. The days of pension are over. So the foundational structure is Social Security. I've also heard, you know, Social Security is going away. I got to take it now. No, it's not going away. What's really going to happen is in 2034, if nothing's changed, they're going to reduce everybody's benefits 19%. It's not my opinion. You can go look at your statement. It says right at the bottom what the expectation is. So those are some things to think about. I think eliminate the idea of try to winning at Social Security and look at how do we manage risk in our financial plan using Social Security over time.
At Premier Investments and Wealth Management website, premieriwm.com, they do have downloadable information for you. They've got the guide to Social Security that helps you get an understanding. Had no idea myself until one of them said there are 300 plus permutations for how the Social Security puzzle can be solved. That's a lot, but that's also one of the reasons why they have custom software that they work with in order to run your financial plan. So if you don't have one, Jane, it's a good opportunity for you to go to premieriwm.com, click on Get Started, enter a few answers to some questions. They'll provide for you a one-page Premier Vision document, and they'll provide you free no-obligation consultation. See if you want to become a client at Premier Investments and Wealth Management, 800-383-6590. Named to Forbes 2026
And 25.
2025.
Yeah, exactly. Best in state wealth management team. Jonas, question for you here from Sharon. Our son's 26, graduated from college 2 years ago. He's still relying on us financially more than we expected at this stage. We pay for his phone, car insurance, and all his food, personal items as he's still living with us. We want to support him, but we want to start gently nudging him out of the nest so he isn't relying on us forever. Any advice?
Sharon, it's great that you're still trying to support your son. You really need to develop a long-term structure here to try to phase him out a little bit. I underlined we're paying for his phone. We talked about the phone payments,
But they
car
get a discount.
insurance.
You know, it's a family discount.
All his food, and he's living with you. So ultimately, the parents we're trying to make our kids independent of us, and it's almost a national epidemic now, Doug. You look at a Wells Fargo study. Kids between 18 to 28 are still living from home. They're receiving financial payments from their parents. 56% of the parents are saying, basically 2/3 of parents have kids 18 to 28 that are relying on them financially, and over half of these parents are saying that it's putting a cringe into their retirement plans. So what can we do? Try to set some clear expectations. What are you going to cover for expenses? Here's my favorite. What's the gradual phase out? Is there some things that you could stop paying for after your son has steady employment? He has some of his own savings goals, and maybe he can contribute to some of the household expenses while he's still living in the home. But you have to have an open conversation. Can't pull the rug on him right away since you're paying for all of his expenses, but you have to have some timeline goals. And I think it starts with probably steady employment with the son, and then having him. We always like to say that kids should have a skin in the game of some type. So even if he has to start paying for his cell phone bill, start with a timeline of some kind. And I probably starts with steady employment where he's making a regular paycheck.
Yeah, this is a real interesting one. But not only that, but also an opportunity to educate him as well, to help him figure out what do I need to do in order to put together my own budget so that I can survive financially once I do have that steady full-time employment.
Absolutely, absolutely. And everybody has a different upbringing in their childhood. My parents made it so difficult for me not to feel guilty about working that I didn't have this problem about living with them at all. But everybody goes through this, and I think you should deserve a pat on the back, Sharon, for trying to help your son. And he is college educated. I would like to see some phase-out timelines here where he has a skin in the game.
You know, I'm going to make an observation, maybe be a little bit contrarian here, because I was kind of thinking about this entire thing over through this, and this strikes me as a uniquely American thing. And what I mean by that is back in about 2007, 2008-ish, I was living down in Buenos Aires, Argentina. And
Can you say that again, please?
Buenos Aires?
It's amazing. You had the tongue roll and everything. You got it.
Buenos Aires, Argentina. How's that? There you go.
Desmonds.
Anyway, so I was living down there on a study abroad, and I had gotten to know some of the locals, and I'd met this gal named Magdalena. Now, 19-year-old Casey met Magdalena, and I ended up at her parents' house having dinner with them. And they said, "Who are you?" why are you here? And got to having this entire conversation. And they said, how old are you? Now, it turns out she was 31 years old, still living at home.
And you were 19?
I was 19 years old. They had no idea because of the cultural divide that actually existed. The normal thing down there was you lived at home until you got married. Now, she had taken me home because she was like, this would be a guy that might be good to date to get married, actually, at that point in time, until she found out that I was 19 years old, and then that pretty much scrapped everything at that point in time. But my entire point on that is that we have this very uniquely cultural thing, at least when it comes over to the United States, that we kick our kids out immediately. That's not true necessarily throughout the rest of the world. And so I do think that it is important that we do set our kids up for success. But if we have a situation where there is a kid that does maybe need some additional assistance, or we have a kid that for whatever reason hasn't launched correctly, that we do want to, as you were mentioning, Jonas, and I do agree with you, phase them over into these areas of responsibility rather than just slamming the gate and just kicking them out immediately.
Interesting that we're having this conversation. I didn't look at this question before this. Before we came in here, I was talking to Ron, and he's like talking about his daughter still living at home. She's 21. I said, well, Ron, you know what? I just expect my kids are going to live with me forever. And what he said, he goes, really? I said, yeah, because then I can't be disappointed. And not a bad thing. Just
Right.
Right.
You know, you guys know how I set my expectations. I set the bar pretty low. So I go to Disney, I just assume it's going to be a total disaster. And guess what? It only gets better from there.
Right, but again, I mean, that goes back over to, we have like this really odd thing, at least over in American culture, where it's you turn 18 and you move out of the house immediately, and that's just not the practical reality.
Elias was talking about that. He goes, well, there's cultures where they live as a family unit forever.
Yep.
Like, so no, and you know what? My wife would probably be really happy if my kids lived with us forever. But what, I mean, it just is what it is. And I agree with you. I think we have this weird culture that, oh, you got to get out of here and get on your own. Well, I don't know. If you can afford to help your kids, I don't really know why you make them struggle. Like, I think your analogy, Jones, nudge them a little bit.
I think though, it goes back over to setting the correct boundaries that are over in place.
I'll give you a good example. When I was in college, my first couple of years, I lived at home. I came home my first semester from college, and it wasn't wonderful. My dad's like, well, you're living home for free. You're not getting great grades. So there's a couple options here. We're probably going to get a part-time job, and we're going to get better grades. Otherwise, it's just time to like move on with a different career. So it wasn't, hey, you have to get out of here. It's like, hey, to remain living in this house.
It was a good conversation.
It was.
Well, it's appropriate. It's
well, it wasn't
appropriate
even
boundary.
tough. It was like, hey,
It's
you don't
appropriate boundary setting.
yeah, well, he's like, you don't have to do this, but if we're not going to do these things, this is the next step. And it wasn't hard. Get a part-time job because you're not doing great at school anyway.
Lord.
But I quickly did better at school because I really didn't want to take all the money from the part-time job and, you know, go spend it all on a place to live.
Yeah.
Because I was pretty frugal back then. But I think those are the things too. That was the nudge. Hey, let's kind of get on with this maturing process.
In Casey, I think too, getting to what you were saying, there's an expectation that I think some of our children have, and maybe it's just the ones you happen to see if you pop up social media of the kid who's worked 3 8-hour days as a barista, and they're like, how do people do this? I just can't understand how people can survive in a world as I've had to work 3 8-hour days this week.
Well, I don't misunderstand me. I'm not talking about coddling.
Well, I know, but it's like there's an expectation that we just haven't hit.
My daughter wakes up every day. She's like, I don't want to go to school. I go, why? She goes, it's just too long. I go, it's 7 hours. This is the best time of your life. Not because she doesn't like school.
Exactly.
I just got to be there too long, Dad.
That's great. See, this is fun. Hey, we want you to do yourself a favor. Make sure, Sharon, you go over to Premier Investments and Wealth Management website, premieriwm.com. They've got a free downloadable budget worksheet that you can use with your son, whoever else you want in the house, too, to sort of go through this and say, here's what we need to do, here's how we need to do this. So premieriwm.com. If you feel like you want to call and ask another question or even make an appointment, 800-383-6590 for Premier Investments and Wealth Management. Dr. Mushrush,
Just you, Doug.
Finn wants to know, is there a simple way I can get a better handle on my spending without tracking every single dollar? I've tried numerous times to budget. It usually only lasts a week. My spending isn't out of control, but as I get older, I'd like to be more intentional with where my money is going.
Finn, great question. Yes, you can do this thing without having to track every single dollar. And really what it's all about is just trying to build some form of simple system or put some things over in place in order to make sure that your savings and spending is going where you intend it to and nowhere else. Now, one of the things that you were talking about over on the budgeting, and that has a tendency to get a pretty bad, it's almost a curse word in the financial circles sometimes, simply because what most people hear about, or what they hear about that, is they hear restriction and they hear control. Now, while that's not necessarily the overall intention or even what is necessary when it comes over to a budget, that is what I would call maybe really more of a perception more so than anything else. I would actually ask you to shift your thinking just a little bit. Rather than focusing over on that line item by line item, tracking every single penny and budgeting underneath the standard terminology, focus on a personalized savings plan, and then also pair that with a personalized spending plan. Now, really what this means is your grandmother was right. Pay yourself first. So when you put your savings mechanisms over in place, as we've talked about before, understand what your financial plan says that you need to save and where you need to save it. Automate that first and make sure that if it's coming out of your paycheck, it's going to the 401k, or if it's coming on the same day that your paycheck arrives, that it goes to your retirement account or goes to your brokerage account if you've got maybe a shorter term goal that you're saving for. But pay yourself first and then spend the rest. By doing that simple part of an automation, it really will help you it will help you stop having to focus on that day-to-day, having to track every single penny, because you already know that you're hitting those savings goals automatically without actually having to think about it. So just making sure that you have those things in place. Now, I would also say that even on that other approach as well, having your emergency funds in place first, make sure that you've got adequate reserves in place. Make sure that your retirement savings are being saved for, and then save for your other goals, and then build out that personalized spending plan based off of whatever is left from there.
It's something that's important to think about too, because I've got a family member who used Excel to put together their budget, and they're being prompted to go into something else, and they're having to learn a completely different system, and they're coming apart at the seams because for them they need to know down to the last penny. You guys have talked about this. It's nice to know that, but it's like looking at the value of your home every day, looking at the value of your 401k every day.
Well, that being said, I also think it depends on what phase of life you're in too. Like the penny by penny budget piece that he's talking about, the best place where that actually and where it is probably necessary is when you're trying to eliminate debt. Okay. Like if you've got a lot of consumer debt, whether it's like credit cards or you got like a ton of student loans or things that are out there, you need to know where all that is going so that you can redirect those dollars as much as you possibly can over to that debt elimination. Now, I can't really tell here based off the specific question, but I'm going to make a little bit of a presumption. We may be through that part of it. And now really maybe there's just some additional cash flow that we're trying to watch out for lifestyle creep. We're trying to watch out for, just trying to figure out where the dollars are going more so than anything else. And I tell people all the time, even when it comes over to the retirement income standpoint, I don't care if the money gets spent on tires, sushi, or a brand new baby grand piano. Doesn't matter to me. What I care about is if it's out of the plan and we have it earmarked or we have it spent, that those dollars are not going to be utilized, in terms of future spending at that point.
Be from Buenos Aires. Final question for the group. Here we go. We've got a couple of minutes for you.
What was her name?
On each of this
Madeline?
one.
Magdalena.
Magdalena.
Casey Magdalena.
Yeah, we're gonna have.
So it was Casey, right? Didn't you say her name was Casey?
No, Magdalena.
Oh, okay. It was
Casey and Magdalena.
Okay,
that was
gotcha.
my
Magdalena.
If you would have told her your name was Antonio Banderas, she would have been
I'd have been like everyone else. That's the thing, Jonas. I'd have been like everyone else.
Oh, Magdalena. Al wants to know, I'm 55 thinking seriously about retirement, but I go back and forth daily. One day I feel ready, the next I feel completely unprepared. How do you know when you're actually ready for retirement, Jonas?
Al, if you're this close to retirement, this is critical. You need to pin down an income plan and just not leave it to I should be okay, or am I going to run out of money? I had a customer that he must have met with me 6 times before he retired, and every time, Doug, he said, my emotions are like bingo balls. I don't know whether to retire or not. And I said,
Rodney
calm
Dangerfield
down.
was one of your clients.
We're going to go from you should be okay to having an income plan. We're going to pinpoint a dollar amount that you need each month to where if you don't miss your job, you don't have to go back. And we actually did that. And we made the plan really simple for him, Doug, because we were able to come up with a formula that was just taking interest and dividends out of his account. And he understood the plan, and he actually retired, and he loves his income, and it was sufficient enough because he actually had a plan. It wasn't just a fear of running out of money or I should be okay, let's go ahead and retire. It was actually a written plan that was on a piece of paper that he still has today. He brings it in, and he actually loves it.
I think key point, you demonstrated to that client how they would be okay versus just telling them. You know, we all assume our opinions are pretty good, but when we can start to put some fact and we can demonstrate to people this is how it works, if we accomplish step A, B, C, and D, you're going to be okay. It brings a lot of clarity and comfort to them. And that's truly why we spend the time putting together the financial plan, utilizing the Premier Bucket strategy. Yeah. The Premier Bucket strategy for the most nervous clients will make them feel better because they start to realize you have a plan as an advisor group of how to deal with market volatility and try to make sure the money we have lasts as long as they do. And that's really the power of an advisor, is demonstrating versus telling somebody what will work.
There's more than one question being asked when somebody says, am I ready for retirement? There's this one, but there's also this one.
I think there's actually a question that Al needs to ask himself. Who are you when you are not working? Because one of the things that he's talking about over on here is one day I feel ready, one day I'm not ready. Now, there's a huge emotional component that is here. Is it financial? Is it emotional? If you can answer that question, who am I when I'm not working? I think you've made major inroads into answering the emotional component piece of that. Like the money part that we talk about quite often, we can structure that, we can set that up, we can build these things out. We have these systems that are absolutely incredible and incredibly powerful that we can show somebody that. But you have to be able to answer that question of who you are when you're not working.
That's true. And he doesn't tell us. We just assumed it was financial. It could be, what am I going to do with my time? Yeah. And unfortunately, if people don't know what they're going to do with their time, it can lead to bad habits. I actually read an article not too long ago where a business owner retired at 41. Him and his wife retired, living the life, sold a business. She was dead 9 years later because they had a boat. Well, they used to have cocktails at 4 o'clock, and then it was 2, and then it was noon, and then it was 9, and she drank herself. That's what happened. And they didn't have a clear plan. It was like, oh, we're going to retire and live on a boat. Well, okay. Eventually, that's not a great plan. So to your point, Casey, think about what you're going to do. The other thing is what you're going to do with your time directly correlates with the income plan.
Right.
People think, oh, well, I'm not going to spend more money when I'm retired. Well, yeah, you probably will, because when you're working, you don't have any time to spend money. Now you get an extra 40 hours a week.
Absolutely. And Al, at 55, too, we need to talk about your health insurance plan also, along with your income plan.
It's not free.
And your emotional plan. But that's a great point, Roger. I had a neighbor that he retired from the local utilities company, and it was during the derecho. His big tree fell down, so I was in the back cutting. I started to cut his tree down for him.
Scary that you
and
had a chainsaw.
he came out and he said, "Whoa, what are you doing? What the heck are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm trying to help you cut your tree down." And he's like, "No, that's 8 hours worth of work for me." I didn't realize that I was taking that project out of his retirement day. I was actually ruining the part of his day by trying to help him out. So
Jonas.
that's not having a defined plan.
I think he was being nice to you. He didn't trust you with the chains.
No,
That's
he was
besides
saying
the
that's
point.
an 8-hour job for me at 16 if you help.
He looked out there. He's like, that has.
Hey, I was
Sawed off
juggling,
me
I
all
was
over
juggling
it.
chainsaws, 2 at a time. Don't worry about me.
I will say, COVID and derecho was the only times where it was normalized to see somebody walking down the street with a chainsaw and a mask.
You're right about that.
That was a good job.
It's crazy. You know what? This is the nice thing about it, because when you come to work with my friends at Premier Investments and Wealth Management, you get real people. It's not just about the dollars and cents. It's not just about the numbers and the spreadsheets. It's about your life. It's about your kids, your family, your dreams, your wants, your desires, how you want to retire, where and when. Premier Investments and Wealth Management. Click Get Started at premieriwm.com. Answer a few questions. They'll provide you a one-page Premier Vision document. They'll let you keep that document too, and they'll give you a free meeting to go over it. They'll explain everything behind it to you, okay? You can do it in person here. They'll come to you. You can do it over the internet, whatever. The important thing is that you get that done so you can get that next step, whether it's to start putting money away or to say, I'm ready to retire. Now, how do I do it? Premier Investments and Wealth Management at premieriwm.com or call 800-383-6590. Make that appointment today. Premier Investments and Wealth Management named to Forbes 2025 Best in State Wealth Management Team. And 2026, too. For the Big Kahuna, Roger Abel. For Jonas Everett. And for Dr. Casey Mushrush.
Just you, Doug.
I'm Doug Wagner. We'll talk to you again next week.
Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC. The opinions voiced in this show are for general information purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, and financial or tax advisor prior to investing. Premier Investments in Wealth Management and LPL Financial do not provide specific individualized tax or legal advice. We suggest that you discuss your specific situation with a qualified tax or legal advisor. Rebalancing a portfolio may cause investors to incur tax liabilities and/or transaction costs, and does not assure a profit or protect against loss. Economic forecasts set forth may not develop as predicted, and there can be no guarantee that strategies promoted will be successful. All performance referenced is historical and is not a guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and cannot be invested into directly. There is no assurance that the techniques and strategies discussed are suitable for all investors or will yield positive outcomes. The purchase of certain securities may be required to affect some of the strategies. Investing involves risks, including possible loss of principal. There is no guarantee that a diversified portfolio will enhance overall returns or outperform a non-diversified portfolio. Diversification does not protect against market risk. Dollar cost averaging involves continuous investment in securities, regardless of fluctuations in price levels. Investors should consider their ability to continue purchasing through periods of low price levels. Such a plan does not assure a profit and does not protect against loss in declining markets. Contributions to a traditional IRA may be tax deductible in the contribution year, with current income tax due at withdrawal. Withdrawals prior to age 59.5 may result in a 10% IRS penalty tax in addition to current income tax. A Roth IRA offers tax deferral on any earnings in the account. Qualified withdrawals of earnings from the account are tax-free. Withdrawals of earnings prior to age 59.5 or prior to the account being open for 5 years, whichever is later, may result in a 10% IRS penalty tax. Limitations and restrictions may apply. Traditional IRA account owners have considerations to make before performing a Roth IRA conversion. These primarily include income tax consequences on the converted amount in the year of conversion, withdrawal limitations from a Roth IRA, and income limitations for future contributions to a Roth IRA. In addition, if you are required to take a required minimum distribution, RMD, in the year you convert, you must do so before converting to a Roth IRA. Forbes Best in State Wealth Management Team's ranking was developed by Shook Research and is based on in-person, virtual, and telephone due diligence meetings, and a ranking algorithm that includes a measure of each team's best practices, client retention, industry experience, review of compliance records, firm nominations, and quantitative criteria, including assets under management and revenue generated for their firm. Investment performance is not a criterion because client objectives and risk tolerances vary, and advisors rarely have audited performance reports. Shook's research and rankings provide opinions intended to help investors choose the right financial advisor and team, and are not indicative of future performance or representative of any one client's experience. Past performance is not an indication of future results. Neither Forbes nor Shook Research receive compensation in exchange for placement on the ranking. For more information, please see www.shookresearch.com. Shook is a registered trademark of Shook Research, LLC.